This kid's fire.
What's that? What's that, brother? What's that? What's that, brother? Brother, what's that, brother? What's that? What's that, brother? Brother, what's that? What's that, brother? What's that? What's that, brother? Brother, what's that, brother? What's that? What's that, brother? Brother,
Yes, people, welcome back to another episode of L to the Bins. How are you guys doing? Smash up these likes. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel as well if you're new. Are you there?
Yeah, sorry, yeah. My GPU was popping off. I'm good.
Oh, it can't handle the heat, mate. It can't handle the heat.
I was trying to export a video in the background. It could not hack it, so I've just cancelled that.
Oh, you was trying to export video during the middle of L Bins.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm not committed to not committed to the grind, clearly.
You're not committed to the cause, man. Now, big up to you guys. Smash these likes up. Ryan says Nobbins wearing red.
Is this red necessarily? It's
Let's
like
have a look.
it's sort of like I don't even know what he'd label it as. It's not quite red.
Oh, it's an off red, isn't it?
Yeah, the shades in it. Yeah, so don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
It's okay to like the color red, guys. You know, it's
Ryan,
fine.
chill, man. It's not that
Chill,
deep, bro.
chill.
Still waiting for the Echeverry video. Free Echeverry video.
Yeah, and I was waiting for Pep to give him a minute of football.
He's getting closer. He's now been on the bus and he's been on the plane.
There we go. There we go.
You know,
we're inching closer and closer.
Yeah, we're getting there slowly but surely, guys. We're getting there.
Indeed.
All right, okay. Let's have a little bit of a chat about transfer talks and what's best for City going into the summer and stuff. And something that couple of your tweets that you put out over the recent days have got me intrigued, and I want to question you on these opinions and hear your views on them.
Is this a Spanish Inquisition? Is that what's happening?
It is. See, it is. Okay, so first of all, when the news dropped about WIRTZ going to Bayern Munich, you tweeted that you were basically not that fussed because you didn't think that was a priority position, or you didn't think it was that important. And seemingly, your tweet about Reijnders suggests that you feel like he would be more important or better to Manchester City than WIRTZ. Now, what's your thinking on this? What's led you to this belief?
Yeah, so it is. It's a belief that I hold regardless of name. I think it's. I just want to establish that this isn't even I know the title of the stream is very incendiary and is, this player better than that player. But I need to make it clear that it's not about the name. It is about what I think the squad needs personally, and I just believe that this team right now is more in need of an 8 sort of player than a 10 sort of player. That's all it really boils down to. There's nothing hidden there. It's just because that's what I believe that City need more so. And if we are talking about specific names, then yes, I would. And if it was a choice, then I would personally rather prefer Reijnders over WIRTZ. Yes, that's not because I necessarily think he's a better player or anything like that. It is simply because I believe he fulfills certain needs that this squad needs more so than the other option. That's all it is. I also followed up that tweet with, in an ideal world, it wouldn't even be a conversation, and that we would just be able to get, Morgan Gibbs-White and a Reijnders and a WIRTZ, and it's not even a thing. But it's because we've also got this added context of we need goalkeepers, we need a right back, we need a left back. So we're investing a lot of money there. We know if we're bringing in Morgan Gibbs-White, that's fine. We will need another all-round midfield type player to rebuild this midfield, because you can't just rebuild a midfield with 1 or 2 signings. You need a number of them. And then for me, we can entertain a conversation about, right, and now do we look to get, a purely attacking midfielder through the doors? My priorities are elsewhere. That's all it boils down to. People in the chat I saw before the stream said I'm a hater or whatever. I don't even think I've ever tweeted about WIRTZ. I don't think I've ever really commented on him, So I don't know where the idea is I don't like him or I'm a hater has come from. I've never really addressed him. That's why I was sort of ambivalent to him potentially not joining us, especially given the context of his fee. I think you also saw my tweets. I think you commented on it. That's why I was very interested when earlier today, allegedly, it would only cost City 85 million quid, 100 million euros. That's what that is. That is a very different conversation, because I thought we were talking about 130 million pounds. That was the amount that was being, floated around there. 85 million, that's a very different proposition, because you could actually get another player for the difference in that price. So if that's what we're talking about, I am actually a little bit more interested. But that was my starting point. That was where I'm at. Don't attack me. I'm not a hater, and I don't dislike him. He's a wonderful footballer. It's just the needs. City needs other things elsewhere, in my view, and more of a priority. That's all it is. Are you going to attack me now?
No, I'm not going to attack you, because whilst I still think WIRTZ would have been better in terms of the one-off, I've also said if we don't get WIRTZ, we should 100% go to a 2-8 system. 2 8s, not 2-8.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
System, which you tweeted about, and I agree, because there's no point in buying a shit WIRTZ just because you want a 10 to force a 10 in the system, when a good Manchester City side is a fluid side, and a good Manchester City side, players, especially in that middle area, can sort of drop deep if they want. They can play next to Haaland if they want. We've seen this for years. It's nothing new. And I don't think the club, if they miss out on WIRTZ, should go into the market, force a purchase for another number 10 that is miles off the level of WIRTZ, and therefore even further off the miles of Kevin De Bruyne, just to satisfy some people's needs that we desperately need a 10. When actually, you'd be better off, if you miss out on WIRTZ, which looks likely, that you'd be better off going getting a quality 8 and then going getting another quality 8 and just adapting the system a little bit and having actual legitimate quality players on the football pitch, rather than forcing in a worse player into a position because you're so obsessed with the position. PSG have, for right now, for me, the best team in Europe. They don't play with a 10. Yeah, Barcelona over the years have been in certain teams and they've not played with a 10. City have played without 10s in the past. You don't need a 10. I feel like some people are going down this thing of, we're losing Kevin De Bruyne, who's a 10. Well, actually, he's played as an 8 for quite a lot of his career anyway, so that's not even true. And just because people just assume that he's a 10, we have to get a 10. And if we don't get a 10, we're absolutely cooked. So how can we not get this? This is not the way to run the football club. And we shouldn't be buying players to fit a specific position if they're not good enough. Now, if there is a 10 on the market that is good enough for Manchester City, which I don't believe there is right now, then fine, go and get him. But, I don't really think there is. People are talking about Simmons. The chat and mad split on him. I see that all the time about Simmons. Some people think he's mint. Some people think he's atrocious. Eze, another player that people talk about. I don't think he's at that level, personally. I think he's a great player, but I don't think he's quite at the Manchester City level. And the fact he's 27 and still at Palace indicates that maybe other clubs have thought the same thing. So my move on from that position of, okay, if you miss out on WIRTZ, is clearly to go to a system with 2 8s and adapt the system rather than just forcing a player in there. And that brings me on to Reijnders. This guy, yeah, is a top quality player, chat. Yeah, he reminds me of Gundogan. I've seen loads of people on Twitter, loads of you guys in video comments, in live chat speak about him and say the same thing. He reminds me of a Gundogan. He's a little bit bigger than Gundogan, and maybe he's a little bit more powerful with the way that he runs with it. But he's a very technically gifted player. I'd be amazed if he comes into this team and takes a while to settle in. I think he'll come into the team and just settle straight down because he's just perfect for this system, really. And, I think that's the way to go. Now, there is a good point here. And I'm going to address this point now from Nav. He says, you can't play with 2-8s when you have Haaland. I don't think that's necessarily true. Because what you need when you've got Haaland is you need creativity. Now, that doesn't have to come from just an 8 position. Like I say, if you play with Rodri, say Morgan Gibbs-White and Reijnders, one of them will play more advanced. Yeah, you also need to get better output from the wings, which we spoke about loads. Now, whether that comes from actual wingers or whether that comes from new overlapping fullbacks, we'll wait and see which direction the club goes in that. But again, for me, and I spoke about this the other day when I spoke about we need to build the team around Haaland. If we are going into the season and we're basically saying, right, we've got this 10, and this is the guy that's going to create the chances for Haaland, I think that's the wrong approach. We need to feed Haaland for chances from the left, from the right, and centrally. But we shouldn't just be buying a player for the 10 position just because we all think we're desperate for a 10. We need quality players. The aim of the game this summer is to buy better football players than what we've got now. And if there's no 10s on the market, there's no 10s on the market. But to Tijani Reijnders, I mean, I don't know how much you've seen of him, and I'd be interested to hear your take on Reijnders. I think this guy's perfect for us. I really do, bro.
Can I just address this comment as well? Yeah, yes. So you're absolutely right. Again, I did a tweet about that, and someone said, "Okay, so no one's going to create," and it's like I forgot that like an 8 isn't allowed to create for opportunities for their teammates. That seems I don't actually know where that's come from. To be fair, Iniesta wasn't a pure 10, was he? I would suggest he was more of an 8. Was he not a creative player? I think David Silva played his best football for City as an 8. Was he not a creative player? I don't think I know maybe not this season, but over his time with City, I don't think anyone's really looked at Gundogan and go, "Oh, you're a shit creator." I don't think anyone's really looked at that, and yeah, that's never really been the conclusion. So just from the 8 perspective, why can't they create? And answer they can. Let's take, last season, for example, Morgan Gibbs-White, who's a player we're apparently bringing in, he got, 10 assists in the league last season playing for Nottingham Forest, which is quite impressive. Now, he's not an exclusive 10. He'd be playing more as an 8 for City. But he's clearly someone who can create as well. Foden last season got 9 assists as well. Rodri, I mean, we're talking about going to a different position now. He's a 6, but he can still create. You mentioned the wingers or the fullbacks. It can come from anywhere, and you don't want, as you say, your creativity to be totally concentrated in one player for a number of reasons. It makes it a lot easier for the opposition to just shut them down and go, right, all their creativity comes from that area, just shut that area of the pitch down. All of a sudden, now what do you want to do? You can't do anything. You need to be creative from the forward areas, from the wide areas, from the central areas as well, and preferably your fullbacks also. It would be very odd to put all of our eggs into our basket. You don't necessarily need that sort of player. So it's not the end of the world if we don't get that player. Again, you mentioned, there are lots of players who don't have that profile of player. They're doing absolutely fine. I would argue the 2 teams in the Champions League final don't have that sort of player necessarily. So that's to address, just to address that. And yeah, on Reijnders specifically, he reminds me of a young Gundogan. The video I was trying to export before this stream, it addresses that in a bit more detail, but he is absolutely that for me. He does remind me of that. He tends to play like left of centre for AC Milan, which is where like Gundogan typically played for City as well. He's not a player who you would want to be holding the defensive midfield area down on his own. It's not really his game. You want him to be able to push slightly further forward if he's able to do so and contributes going forwards. But that's not to say that he's like a defensive liability. And I do think that in a Rodri-less Manchester City, so let's say, so Rodri not playing, now all of a sudden, I think that Nico and Reijnders is a far more stable midfield than anything we could possibly have expected to see this season. So it just allows a lot more possibilities for rest with Rodri as well. Gives us more bodies there, quality bodies as well. It's a signing that I'm very, very excited by. There was also a really good tweet by I think it was Bailey of Sky Blue Times, or maybe it was American Citizen. I can't remember. It was one of those two. They commented on the number of minutes that he's played in his professional career. It's not many at all, which is very good. So even though he's 26, 27 years old, he's not an old 26. He's not an old 27 years old. He's got relatively young legs, if that makes sense. So it's not like we're signing a player who's going to be cooked in 3 years' time. That might be it. Yeah, lovely. And there was another tweet about the minutes played. It's not that many minutes in the grand scheme of things, which is really good for City. So it means we're not really buying old legs here. So if we sign him, no idea how legitimate the links are, but this is one that gets me off my seat. This is one where I'm like, yes, please. I'm not ambivalent to this signing. I would love this signing if it could happen.
And the price is actually quite good as well for the people who,
do we have a vibe, an idea of price?
£53 million plus add-ons.
So maybe like £60 million.
60, 65, something like that.
Yes. I think that represents good value for money, to be fair.
I do as well. I think if you get him for less than 70 million, I think that's a good price, to be honest with you.
Easy.
And I think he's another player that reminds me of the players that we used to sign 3-4 years ago, where they're already like the Bernardos of this world, right? And Bernardo's probably slightly ahead of Reijnders in that regard, but like where they're already playing at a top level, a good level, and they're ready to make the jump to Manchester City, where we turn them into a world-class football player, Like these are the type of, and Mahrez obviously at Leicester, he was obviously already at a high level, but we brought him in, increased his value. Sterling at Liverpool, brought him in, improved him, but we bought great players who were close to becoming world-class. And I think this is the case with Reijnders. I think, you could bring him in. He's already at a top-class level. And with a bit of coaching and a better team with better players, I think he could go up a level. And like I say, I think he's a player who could come in and improve. Big up Daniel in the chat says, as a West Ham fan who come up against both players in Europe, Reijnders stood out more than WIRTZ. You should get him, says Daniel's a West Ham fan. So
I've courtesy of, again, go follow Sky Blue Times on Twitter, courtesy of Bailey who runs it. He sent me a message he's passing on a message from someone who works at AC Milan. So would you like to hear what the person
is that Walker? He works at AC Milan.
Karl Walker. Yeah,
is Bailey linked in at AC Milan?
So this is what they said about him. He's got the end-to-end running and availability of Bernardo. He's also got the prime Gundo box arriving and the technical ability / game understanding of insert whatever Pep midfielder you want. So he seems like a perfectly coded Pep midfielder, essentially. So if you could build a Pep Guardiola midfielder, seemingly, he would certainly be up there. So that is very, very exciting, to be honest.
Well, I watched him. I did a scout along in the AC Milan, Inter Milan, Coppa Italia semi-final, and I thought he was absolutely fantastic. I thought the way he played the game, the way he carries the ball, is very smooth with his ball carrying ability. His passing's crisp, sharp. He's able to run with it, and then he scored. And he took his goal really, really good. I think this comment by Nigel is a great point in what could happen in terms of the creativity, because Reijnders and Gibbs White, I wouldn't say these two are. I'm not sure, like in the volume or massive volume creators necessarily. Although Gibbs White is probably closer to it than Reijnders because of the way he plays. The question is, would you get enough? Because you do need creativity in that central area. Would you get enough creativity in this central area? You're probably not going to get quite enough. So for me, what you need is we really need to talk about our wing areas. The wing areas have to step up and start delivering in terms of chance creation. And Doku, we need to start finding City shirts in the box, whether that's a Doku issue, whether that's a coaching issue, whether that's just a other player issue. We need to sort it out. on the right-hand side. We need to work out what's going on there. We don't know who our right winger is. You know what I mean? Are we playing with the right winger? Are we playing with the right back who pushes up? That's still not really been sorted out much this season. So, listen, again, it's about system. We can't just sit here and say Reijnders and Gibbs-White don't create enough chances, so that's it. We can't do it. Again, it's a system change. So you need everybody, and this is what I was talking about the other day on the stream about Haaland. We need to go into next season where we are creating chances for Haaland from all parts of the pitch, the left, the right, and the central areas. And if you're going to take a little bit of a decrease in chances created from the central areas, and by the way, the chances created from central areas this year has been poor anyway, right? If you go to Gibbs-White and Reijnders, I would actually argue it probably goes up next season because this year's midfield has been so poor. And you add more creativity from the width. I think you'll be okay. Big up to Aaron who says 2 8s and Rodrigo if you can't get a 10. We'll come on to Rodrigo in a minute because obviously that has been linked. But I don't know. What do you think do you think you're going to get enough creativity in the middle with Rodri, Reijnders and Gibbs-White?
Yeah, definitely. I don't even think that would be the midfield in itself. I think what you may see, for example, again, what I'm like picturing is maybe a box midfield. So maybe you'd have like Rodri and Reijnders as like the on-ball deeper options, and then ahead of them you got Foden and Gibbs-White as the more advanced options. You could swap it around like if you wanted to, but that would probably make the most sense of the options that we currently have. In what world is like that box midfield / diamond midfield not one that can create a lot of chances and opportunities? That's just, it's not true to say that, you know, for example, the Gibbs-White is not a creative player because he just objectively is. It's not even something to argue against. It's just wrong. He just simply is. Especially when you've got like Rodri there, who we know at 6 is still an unbelievable creator as well. I don't see why that midfield isn't enough. Now, is that enough on its own? Like, no, but I wouldn't want it to be enough on its own. I would want it to be complemented by other players in other areas. Again, if you have all your creativity in one basket, in one area of the center, that is bad. You want it to be spread out. Ideally, you want your wingers to be contributing, your fullbacks to be contributing. If you're playing like a second striker, them to be contributing as well. It's not really for me a matter of is the midfield creative enough, because the answer is objectively and just clearly yes. What actually is the question is, can we get it right in the summer, and can we get the correct fullbacks to complement that midfield?
So
that is going to be the key.
Do you agree with me then on the fullbacks, that the fullbacks is actually an understated issue?
It is the greatest outfield issue at this. Oh no, it's not, is it? It is certainly going into next season possibly the greatest outfield issue this club is going to face. Yes, definitely, 100%. We saw against Southampton, there was no offensive threat from our on-ball fullbacks on our on-ball wingers that day, and Gavardio and Lewis. I'm not having a go at them. That we saw that last season as well, when we had, you know, like a Kanji and Gavardio at times being the left back and right back, you know, at the Emirates, for example. We know this is the case. We know that we need a left back. We know we need a right back, or at least players who can play there and can definitely contribute there. So yeah, definitely 100%, especially if you're going to play a wingerless system, it is a non-negotiable, because if you're not going to have any width from the wingers, then you need it from the fullbacks, and you need them to be creating. So yeah, it is not. If people are trying to say that's not a concern, or if it's underrated, yeah, that's a madness to me.
I just think that, like, when I say understated problem, I mean just like there's not that much talk on it on social media. When I go on Twitter and I go on, like, you know, comment section on my videos or whatever the you know, you talk to your mate in the street or whatever, right? I just feel that, like, there's not enough talk on it. Everyone's focused on the De Bruyne replacement, and I get that we need to sort that midfield out. And for me, the midfield is the biggest problem going into next summer. This summer, in my opinion, it's that bad. However, closely in second place, pipped by the nose, is the fullback system. And that's clearly evidence. I said it this morning. It's clearly evidenced by the fact our two best fullbacks, and the two fullbacks that I reckon all City fans want to play at the weekend, is Nico O'Reilly, which is a midfielder, and Matheus Nunes, which is a midfielder. So we don't actually have fullbacks at the football club. And if we are all in agreement that the creativity needs to be spread around much more next year, we need to get creativity from the wings. And whether that you do something with your wingers, whether your wingers get better in terms of Doku, Savio, and obviously Bob coming back, whether they improve, whether you buy new wingers, which we'll come on to in a minute, Aaron Super Chat with Rodrigo, or whether you add a new dimension, which is the fullbacks, which we've seen being utilised very good in a few games recently, with Matheus Nunes probably being the best demonstrator with his performances against Everton, his performances against Aston Villa when he got into the box and provided goals and assists from that right back position. We need that. We need that because, like I say, we can't just rely on the midfield to create all the chances because, as you saw at the weekend, if a club deploys a low block, makes it pure narrow, you are forced to go to the wings. Yes. That's literally a natural situation. If you can't go through it, we got to go around it. And that means go to the wings. And when you have players like Rico Lewis and Gavadio who can't whip across him as good as we need, you're in trouble. These players are very good going forward, but they both naturally like to come in field a little bit, whereas we're talking about out and out width. So, yeah, the fullback situation for me is one that needs to be spoken about more in terms of when we're having these transfer conversations. There's plenty of names out there. There's a lot of good players out there. There's a lot of players that I believe are ready for being, picked up and improved. Aït-Nouri is the one that I'm speaking about quite a lot. We've obviously been linked with quite heavily, actually, with this guy called Wesley at Flamengo, I think he's at, for 40 million. That seems a deal that might be quite advanced. It sounds like City are having serious talks with Flamengo at the moment about a potential transfer there. 21-year-old right back who reminds me a lot of Carl Walker with his ability on his left foot, which is quite funny. But again, I don't have a clue if this guy's a good player or not. I've never watched Flamengo in my life. But we are doing that. And this is why the other day when the story came out from Jack Gaughan that City might only be getting one fullback, I was very disappointed. And it's not just because I want to be negative or whatever. It's because I genuinely believe that we need two fullbacks because I genuinely believe that it's absolutely crucial that we have players who can provide us those assists and chance creation from the wing backs. And if you're only getting one, especially if that one was Cambiasso, you know what I mean? I don't know. Not Cambiasso, sorry. Cambiasso. Yeah, Cambiasso, I'd be a little bit disappointed. So I'm desperate for us to get two. Cambiasso can be one, but then I'd like my other one to be a real attacking threat, someone like an Aït-Nouri or whatever. But yeah, have you got any names for a fullback that you like?
You mentioned Cambiasso. Sorry to be basic. I do like Cambiasso. He is very. We know that he's two-sided. He's two-footed. Pep does not like his players generally to be one-dimensional. He wants them to be able to offer qualities in multiple areas and in multiple avenues. He provides a lot of tactical flexibility because he can either, he says himself, he likes to invert off the right. He likes to push up on the left. That's really good. Offers a different dimension. I think the number one option at right back, if you could get anyone, I was a big fan of Singo, but that's now changed given how we approach the market in Jan. I think we now need a different sort of fullback now, given Kusanov coming in, etc. I think for me, the number one option would be a Livramento. I think that he also addresses the homegrown issue because we are, especially if like Gundogan's staying, we're sort of getting very close to the periphery of how many players we're actually allowed in our squad, aren't we? We're getting very close, especially if we are also adding in Reijnders and a Cambiasso and maybe even someone like WIRTZ. We're getting very close to being over the threshold. I don't know the exact numbers, but we're getting close there. So he could also address that as a concern as well. But also he's just even like disregarding homegrown, he's also just absolutely fantastic. He's of the age where he could be here for like the next 10 years, that sort of thing. He's very versatile as well. Like he can play at left back if needed. Obviously, you want him to go out on the right. That would be the dream option. Just don't know how realistic it is given Newcastle have just won a trophy. They want to win league titles and whatnot. They want to build something. Are you going to be able to get him out of there? We saw with Bruno G that maybe it's not possible to do it. But he would be my number one option. So my conclusion is I would love Livramento and Cambiasso. Those would be my number one choices in those areas. I know that's a bit basic of a choice, but I think it's the best option.
Well, I mean, Livramento is obviously, like you say, he's homegrown as well, so he's a great option. But the thing is, I think they spent like 35-40 million on him anyway.
Oh yeah,
So,
he'd be a lot of money, definitely.
yeah, they're probably going to want to make. They're probably going to ask for 65, probably something like that. Maybe,
I'd pay 60 for him. Look, if Kyle Walker was 50 million pounds 8 years ago, I think that a right back who can transform your defense potentially is going to be worth more than 50 million. So if you said right, it's going to cost 60 million, I'd be like, okay, that's fine, because I think it's a position that we need to desperately go for, because we don't have a right back at the club. Our right back is a midfielder, and our backup right back is a midfielder.
We don't have a left back at the club either, mate.
Yeah, good point. But Gavardio's very lovely, so I'll allow it. But yeah, right back is even worse for me. Left back, we can get away with it. Gavardio showed last season we can get away with it.
Yeah, but we shouldn't be getting away with it.
No, and we should also bring in a left back. I agree. But if you could say which one can you bring in, I'd bring in a right back. If you can only do one, that's not the choice, by the way. Bring in both. But I think if you said, well, for whatever reason you can only bring in one, it's like, okay, well, right back it is then, I guess.
Yeah. What do you think about Nori? I've been on this a bit about Nori hype recently, in that I really like the player. I think he's a really good player. I think he's technically very good. He's able to push forward into the advanced wing positions, get good crosses in. I just think he's got 4 goals, 7 assists this season for Wolves. He's got plenty of experience now. I think this is his 3rd or 4th year in the Premier League, so he's got plenty of experience, and he's only 23 years old, Nobbins, which stunned me when I found that out. I thought he was about 28. So to find out that he's only 23, and I feel that he's another player that is on this level, that he's playing really well. He's playing at an advanced level, and I think if you get him, 2 years left on his contract, now you get him for about 40 million. I think you could bring him in, and I think you could get a world-class left back within a year, 12 months. And he's Premier League proven, and he's Algerian. Come on.
Yeah, big up. Yeah, again, I wouldn't dislike that as an option. If we, for example, substituted in Gavardio for him over the weekend, it's probably a very different game. Probably a very different game. We become such a massive threat from that left side, instead of, again, having a very good centre-back out there popping in crosses, but at the end of the day, nevertheless, still a centre-back popping in those crosses. It wouldn't be my first choice, but I absolutely would not dislike that if he did come. It would be an immediate improvement on anything we have. Immediately improves the floor and the ceiling of this side. We touched on the creativity earlier, provides another avenue there, just makes the whole squad better as a domino effect. That would, I would not have a problem with that at all. That'd be a really decent shout.
Okay, cool. Yeah, just seeing that chat. Big up for the notification.
Right, a cheeky, right? We'll swap deal. Yeah,
straight swap deal. Yeah, I mean, I'm good for a straight swap deal. Yeah, I'm good.
Seems like a good deal to me. Good investment. What you are getting is a treble winner. Yeah, that's what you get in here.
That's what you get in a treble winner. Yeah.
So that's worth its weight in gold.
Who's very fresh, because he doesn't really play for us anymore. So he hardly plays. So he's got plenty of energy in the legs. You were speaking about Reijnders before, about his lack of minutes in his career, professional minutes. So he's not old. Jack Grealish, despite being 29 years old, has hardly kicked a ball for Manchester City this year. So you get a player that's fresh and raring to go. So yeah, maybe, man. Maybe.
Easy mode. Great light-for-light replacement.
Okay, let's have a look at what some of you guys are saying, and I want to come on to the Rodrigo talk. Shout out to LB, says, I know Martinez for right back and left back Ryan Aït-Nouri, says LB, fan of Aït-Nouri. Let's get the Aït-Nouri hype going, chat. And big up to Ash, he says, if we want to be serious next season, Aït-Nouri, Gibbs White, Rodrigo, Reijnders, Cambiasso, Livramento all in. Some players too comfort playing average and starting. Well, you need competition for places, right? You need competition for places, man. You have to get competition for places. If you don't get competition for places, you fucked. I remember when City signed Cancelo, and Kyle Walker's performances went through the roof because the guy knew. I remember when he had Danilo, right? And there was a point in Walker's career when we had Danilo when he wasn't particularly great. He went through a bit of a dodgy period. And then we got rid of Danilo, brought in Cancelo, and Walker's performances went through the roof. I was like, it's because he's got competition for places. He knows that if he doesn't play well or doesn't train well or whatever, Cancelo's going to get the spot. You know what I mean? So you got to have competition. You got to have competition for places, man. That's just the truth of it, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. Oh, yeah, 100%.
Okay. Any other midfielders that you want to speak about before we move on to the winger situation and this talk on Rodrigo?
I don't. No, I don't think there's anyone else to discuss really. No, I mean, we've chatted about Gibbs White, about Reijnders, thrown in Grealish somehow. No, I think that's all good.
Okay. Well, let's move on to the winger position. And this talk's coming out about Rodrigo. Didn't even get off the bench yesterday for Real Madrid against Barcelona. And there's just so much news coming out of Madrid. All the Madrid papers, radio stations are all saying Rodrigo is gonna be leaving Real Madrid this summer. I've not really seen anything, to be fair, in terms of where he's going. It's all about the fact he's leaving. So maybe Real Madrid want him to leave. Maybe Rodrigo wants to leave, but they've not actually got any bids or any interest yet. Do you like him? Because I think I saw a tweet from you about a week ago saying you don't rate him or you don't like him or something along those lines. Is that right?
No, I've never said that. Never said that. No.
Why are you laughing? Did you say that?
No, I didn't. What did you say? I said something that I thought was harmless, but people interpreted it as that. All I said was Rodrigo is not as good as some of you people think he is. That is not the same as Rodrigo is not good or Rodrigo is not that good. Nevertheless, I had floods of comments crying, going, "Oh, so he's not good." That's literally not what I said. Why
that's what Twitter does, isn't it? That's what Twitter does. You say something, and then someone will just change what you actually said.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I don't like pancakes. Oh, so you love waffle? No, that's not what I said. Like, you stop reading what isn't there to be read. If I'm reading Harry Potter, I don't invent other things that are going on in the background. It's like, oh yeah, and this is the scene where Frodo gets the ring. That's Lord of the Rings. That's a different story entirely. Much better story. Yeah. So by that, what I meant was, if we bring in Rodrigo, this is before we even get into a discussion of is it financially feasible, is it financially advisable? Short answer, I don't think so, but based on the needs that we've just outlined earlier. I would presume that Rodrigo would, if he was leaving Real Madrid, I would presume he'd want to play in his best position.
Yeah.
A natural position. Do you think that's a fair presumption? That he wants to play in his natural position?
Yeah, I think if he leaves Real Madrid, he probably would prefer to play left wing. But is that the reason why he's leaving Real Madrid? I would say no.
Okay. Why do you think he's leaving Real Madrid? This is a tangent. Why do you think he's leaving?
I think he's leaving Real Madrid because he's the scapegoat and the fall guy when things go wrong. He's always the first player to get subbed off. He's always to blame. It's never Mbappe. It's never Vinny. It's always Rodrigo. Rodrigo's always subbed off first. And he's always going to be the guy. And I think that he's won everything at Real Madrid. And he's probably thinking, I've had enough of it. Why am I always the guy who gets subbed off when these two can do nothing sometimes? So I think that's the reason. Yeah, underappreciated. Big up Narman. I feel like he feels he's underappreciated and that he gets scapegoated and blamed when sometimes it's got nothing to do with him and it could be the manager's set up or the other two.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. If he wants to come in and play in what isn't his position at right wing, then I don't have a problem with the idea of us signing him in a vacuum. I would have a problem with it based on the fact that we don't need that sort of player given all the other needs on the pitch that we've just discussed at length. Probably goalkeepers, left back definitely, right back definitely, 2 midfielders, maybe more advanced midfielder. That's a lot of money to be spent. Is there even anything left to spend on £100 million on a winger? Probably not. Does it make sense to spend that money on a left winger who's going to be playing on the right? I don't think so. So that then takes me to, okay, well, could he not just play in his better position, which, as you just said, there is on that left side? Well, that means that Marmoush doesn't play. And Marmoush is better than Rodrigo. So I'm therefore not willing to sacrifice anything to do with Marmoush for the sake of Rodrigo.
Or could you play a system where you've got Haaland at the top, Rodrigo on the left, Marmoush in the middle, Foden or whatever on the right, and then you sort of like have Marmoush playing in behind Haaland, you push Foden in centrally, and then you push your right back forward like Nunes, which we've been doing recently, get Nunes forward.
So where's Marmoush playing off ball?
It basically pressing a 2 with Haaland.
And Rodrigo's on the left.
Uh-huh.
I feel like that they would want to go into the same areas, though. I don't think it would work.
Who,
I think
Rodrigo?
I think Rodrigo and Marmoush would want to try to occupy the same areas. I don't think that naturally it tends itself to working. I think that you would be either directly or indirectly diminishing Marmoush's productivity and basically sacrificing what he could be and in his optimal state just to squeeze a Rodrigo into the side. I think that would be silly. That's the way I'm looking at it. And again, I also think it's silly given the fact that we need to spend like 300 to 400 million pounds before we even talk about wingers.
No, I completely agree with the fact that Rodrigo is not a priority in terms of positioning. I completely agree. I think the midfield, the fullbacks, and obviously the goalkeeper is much more important than a winger, especially with Bob coming back. Hopefully, Bob can get back in and play well. But I just think that if he's available, if he's available on the market, the City have to go and just say, well, we got to get him because he's an elite level player, and we need elite level players, so we just have to get him anyway.
What's he offering that like Marmoush doesn't?
I just feel that like maybe Marmoush will be using a different position, especially if you're not getting an out and out 10, you're not having this vocal point. I just feel that you could probably play with like Rodri Gibbs White or Rodri Reijnders, and then have Rodrigo, Marmoush, Foden, push your right back forward, and have Haaland. So I just feel that could be a potential. And I feel if you keep Rodrigo high and wide, that would avoid maybe him getting in Marmoush's space, or when Rodrigo's got the ball on the wing areas, you make sure Marmoush is going into the box to have that extra body in the penalty area.
Yeah, I just don't see it. Again, I think it would be too concentrated. I think they'd get in each other's way. I think it would be disruptive. If Marmoush wasn't as good as he was, I'd be well up for it. If we didn't sign Marmoush, I'd be well up for it. But we have. I think that sort of eliminated the need for him.
All right, then. Where would he play? If we did sign him, where would you think he would play in the side?
Where would I want him to play?
Yeah, or like where do you think Pep would utilise him?
Well, I guess on the right.
We'd have to play on the right.
I don't want him near that left side. Unless you want him to start over Marmoush, and let's be real, Marmoush is starting like 30 plus Premier League games next season. Yeah, if Rodrigo comes in, he's also going to want to start 30 plus Premier League games next season. It's not a case of, just rotate them. No. So if we were going to bring him in, and if he wants to play at right wing in a position that isn't his, and a position that he's, and he said many times how he wants to play in his natural position, then if he wants to do that, then that's chill. And I'd be up for it if there's money at the end of the day. But I don't think that's going to be the case based on the numbers that we are talking about. Yeah. So if he was coming in, I'd play him on the right. And if he's happy playing on the right, then it's a different conversation, assuming that we have the money. Once again, this is not Nobbins hates Rodrigo and Nobbins thinks he's rubbish and Nobbins thinks he's not that good. The point is, if he wants to play in his natural position, he's not good enough to usurp Marmoush. That's all I'm trying to say.
Funny how you say you can't have £100 million signing as a squad depth, but we currently have £100 million signing on the bench.
Yeah, but and that's one of the reasons why he's leaving, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm only playing there. Yeah, all right. We'll see. I don't think we've had any. I don't think, unless someone in the chat can remind me or Nobbins, I don't think we've actually had any links to Rodrigo. Not that I can remember. Anyway, it's all just been about him leaving. It would not surprise me one bit if Arsenal went for Rodrigo. They're desperate for a left.
That would be perfect. So, like, if Rodrigo's smart, he goes to Arsenal. Definitely, that'd be a great signing for them, and he fits a lot better. And he would fit a lot better at Arsenal than City. So, if he's smart, he should go to Arsenal. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, shit. That wouldn't be good, by the way. If they got him, that wouldn't be good.
Oh yeah, that'd be very bad. But I'm not willing to sign a player just so that Arsenal can't have them. I think I don't want my transfer window to be defined by, trying to get in the way of other clubs. That's how United have operated for the past 10 years or whatever, when they try to steal players that we want.
Mm,
I don't want to operate like that.
Like Maguire and Sanchez.
Yeah, Sanchez is the best example, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And Fred. Apparently City wanted Fred.
Fred's another great example. Yeah. I don't want to turn into that sort of club. Let's just look at ourselves.
What about Baleba? I like Baleba, but I just think that's past. I know Jack Dawn said recently that City have looked at Baleba in January and really liked him, but I think we would have signed him instead of Nico Gonzalez. I don't see how we'd sign Baleba when we got Rodri and you've got Nico Gonzalez. I just don't see how that works, to be honest with you. So, no, I think City did look at Baleba, and I think they probably inquired with Brighton in January, but Brighton just were not for selling or just quoted a crazy, crazy price.
Yeah. No, yeah.
So, yeah.
That's a shame because I loved him, but whatever. Can't have nice things.
Johnny says, weird takes on Rodrigo. I think Rodrigo, Marmoush, and Haaland can all live on the same pitch just fine.
I didn't say they can't. That's not what I said. Why are we making up things? What's going on, guys? It's like Twitter. It's like Twitter in real life. I said that they can't live on the same pitch at the same time if Rodrigo wants to play in his natural position. Then you are detrimenting Marmoush. They can all play on the same pitch at the same time. It would just mean Rodrigo would have to take the L and keep playing in a position that isn't his. And if he wants to do that, then it's not a problem.
Okay. XL says, Fabrizio just said Gibbs White will be signed as the number 10 and Reijnders will be the number 8. So, yeah, but the thing is, though, the way he's wording this, I don't think it's going to be like that, though. I don't think it's going to be like that, Idol. I think it's going to be much more of a 3. And all 3 of them sort of like very fluid midfield where all 3 of them have defensive responsibilities and all 3 of them have attacking responsibilities. Because this tells me that, like, right, Gibbs White, your job's to create, you're the scorer, you're the assistant. Reijnders, you're doing a bit of everything. And then Rodri, you're defender. I don't think that's how it's going to be set up. I don't think that's going to.
It's not a binary, is it? It's not one or the other. No. I think the whole point of signing these players is that there is going to be a lot of fluidity and that there can be a lot of rotation. The whole point of signing Gibbs White is that he can play as a 10, but he can also play as an 8, but he could also play alongside Rodri. It's not a case of you are this player, you are that player. Those sorts of players don't really last for Pep Guardiola. Like Alvarez, sorry to now looks like I'm hating on all South American attackers here for a second, but Alvarez illustrated that he was not able to be that player. He was too binary and he was too one-dimensional, so he wasn't able to survive, wasn't able to get and wasn't able to like play in the areas that he wanted to play in because Pep didn't trust him there, etc., etc. You need players who are comfortable in a number of different areas. That's why whenever we think of the Gibbs White signing, it does make sense.
Yeah, facts, 100%. I do get it. Smash these likes up as well, guys. If you've not done so already, get these likes up, man. See what you guys are saying. Wait, what's this? There it is. Wait, what's happened with the chat? The chat's bugging out. Oh, there we go. I watched Morgan Gibbs White against Leicester. He's a fraud. Not good enough for us. That's kind of crazy, man, because that ball that he put in the box for Wood was exceptional.
It was lovely.
Very KDB-esque. And, not even like Gibbs White's biggest fan, more fact. Yeah, I'm like kind of, I think it's just a mess signing. Like, but like that ball that he put in for Wood was incredible. Incredible ball. It very much was KDB-esque, man. Yeah, I mean, and this is coming from someone that even doesn't even like Gibbs White like that,
Yeah, he seems to work well with a player like Wood. So if that can be translated to Haaland, then that's absolutely wonderful. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Johnny says Marmoush could do the same role as Alvarez used to struggle in. He's much more comfortable on the ball, better technique. Yeah, I think that's where I see his position being. maybe in that midfield, or it'll be on the left, inverting in field. He's going to be in the sort of like left attacking midfield space. So whether he starts on the left wing, which is probably where he's going to start and then move in, or maybe he'll start in the midfield, but it's probably going to be off the left. But fundamentally, where's he going to be on the pitch? Probably in the left midfield area centrally, right? Sometimes he might go out wide, whatever. Sometimes he might come mad central. But the area of the pitch he's going to be in is that left bit of around the box, yeah? Because that's where, and then you want him to get in the box for crosses, because we need more than one player in the box. We need to get him in the penalty area.
Yeah, and can I also just say, like, so the chat shouting at me for saying Marmoush isn't a winger. There is a distinction between off ball and on ball. Marmoush will play at left wing off ball. That is what will happen. That's what's been happening for the most part in his City career so far. That does not mean that he stays on the touchline on ball. This is why we were talking about it earlier. This is why it's imperative that you sign an attacking left back, someone to overlap Marmoush so that he can more naturally drift into those central areas. That just want to make that clear. I'm not.
And he's also like an inverted winger. He's not like a Doku. Yeah. Where Doku is like a traditional type of winger, whereas Marmoush is more like a. He's more like a Salah, right? He's like a inside forward.
That was the example I was going to say. Yeah, Salah is a right winger, but he doesn't like always hug the touchline and stay out wide like Jesus Navas and like just pop crosses in. He gets into central areas and he attacks the box from central positions.
And that's why I always say to Liverpool fans when they go, "Oh, Salah scores all these goals as a winger," it's a bit fraudulent because it's not the same as saying like an actual out and out winger. Like he's an inside forward, and that doesn't mean he's never on the wings. Because again, people do this thing where they take something that you said. Sometimes he's on the wings, but you see him a lot, and he comes in field. And I think that's what Marmoush will do, just on the other side. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
But then you need, for me, this is why I think you need a fullback, because when
100%.
Marmoush gets the ball, very similar to Sami Nasri. When Sami Nasri had the ball at Manchester City, he would be close to the penalty area, right? And then when he comes inside, he would usually have Clichy or Kolarov bombing past him, right? And then he'd have an option. And then when he's being marked by two players, that then decreases to one because one of the defenders has to go with the overlapper. And that's how we got so much joy back in the day with Mancini, with our fullbacks, because Mancini had it dialed in, mate. Yeah, Mancini knew what he was doing on that. Yeah, he'd get his wingers, with Sami Nasri or whatever, and he'd get them up, and then he'd just have, how many times did we see Zabaleta bombing past? How many assists does Zabaleta have at City?
Yeah. Clichy, Kolarov, again, like David Silva would often play technically at left wing, but he wasn't hugging the touchline out wide. He had players like Kolarov, for example, to constantly provide the width there. So when we say, or when I say he's playing at left wing, I'm mainly talking about off ball there. That's all it is. It's a nominal position. Football isn't this rigid thing where you're gonna occupy that zone and you're gonna only stay there. That's not really how it works. It's not binary like that.
Yeah. Nah, 100%, man. 100%. Why are we not linked with Theo Hernandez? It's a no-brainer, says Star. I don't know. I don't know why we're not linked with him. He's an attacking fullback.
I like Hernandez. How old is he nowadays? Is he?
I want to say he's about 26, 27.
Oh, I always thought he was older than I thought, because I thought he was around that age. If he is that age, then that's fine. In my head, maybe I thought it was late 20s. Maybe
he's been around a bit, but he's probably one of those players who broke through quite young, so he's probably still about 26. He's probably still about 26. People in the chat say he's 27.
Yeah, that's so he's in his prime years in theory from a physicality perspective. Yeah, I like Theo Hernandez. He can play left back, he can play left centre back, he can push up, do what we were just talking about there, put a great cross in. He's a bozo and always I don't know what his injury record is. In fairness, if he's a liability there, then we can't have another one on the injury list.
Yeah, I seen someone on Twitter today say we should sign Reece James, which was quite interesting because I thought, top player. I think he's. I've always said I think had he not had his injury problems, I think he would have been the best right back in the world. But you can't be shelling out money on him. Yeah, this Savona guy, we have been lit with this Savona, but I don't know nothing about this guy, to to be honest with you.
No.
So we'll have to wait and see. If more news develops, maybe we'll come watch a couple of Juventus games, see what's going on. LB, what's your comment on set pieces? I think our set pieces are shambolic, if I'm being completely honest. And desperately need to improve. And why Kevin De Bruyne still takes our corners is a complete mystery, but we won't slag him off.
That is odd.
Yeah. Shout out to NCZ says so the same issue Madrid face with Vinny and Mbappe.
Yes,
I think he's talking about
that's how I see it. Yeah, again, and also we can even add Bellingham into that. In fairness, they all like to be in the same areas, and they keep getting in each other's way. That's all I meant.
Facts. Trey says you can't have elite depth. Lost Mahrez to rotate. You can have elite depth. The difference is we should have replaced Mahrez. We already had the replacement. It was Cole Palmer right there.
I think that Trey's making the point that you can't have a player like, because I think when I was talking about Rodrigo, someone said, get Rodrigo in as depth, something like that. I think Trey's making the point that you can't have a player like that as depth. He's got to be someone who's going to want assurances as to how much football he plays.
Yeah, no, but the Rodrigo would come in as the starter, and then someone like a Doku or Savio would then be your depth.
Yeah, and that would be fine. Yeah. Again, I think that was at the point of the conversation where we were talking about the difference between, the comparison between like a Marmoush and Rodrigo, if it was one or the other. I might be wrong, but I think that's what he was trying to say. I might be wrong.
Yeah, but you're right. Some players are too good for the bench, and when they want to leave, that's fine. But then you replace them. The problem is in the summer, we lost Alvarez and didn't replace him. We sold Mahrez, we had the replacement, and then flogged Cole Palmer to Chelsea, even though he was literally the perfect Mahrez replacement. So the problem is not about selling the players, because when you have a lot of players, you have squads. Sometimes the players are going to want to leave. The problem is making sure you replace them. And the two biggest examples of us over the last couple of years is with Mahrez and with Alvarez. And both times we did not replace them properly. In Alvarez's case, we just didn't replace him, which was stupid. And we just went, we'll just spread out his goals and assists with everybody else. That's not how it works. That's not how football works. You don't lose 35 G&A and go, well, everyone else can just do it. No.
Yeah, the Marmoush signing or like a more versatile winger signing definitely needed to happen in the summer. It was like 6 months too late.
Yeah, we should have bought Marmoush in the summer, basically. And then when we sold Mahrez, we literally had Cole Palmer, who was literally the perfect replacement for Mahrez, and then we sold him, and then bought Doku, who's nowhere near the level of Mahrez. So we downgraded. We had the player that was there, and then we sold him, which was weird. So I don't have a problem with it, me personally. I just don't care, because people say, Mahrez left, and you're not happy with it. Yeah, but we won a treble. So who cares? Who cares if you win a treble? If you would have asked me at the start of the treble, LB, you're going to win the treble, Mahrez is going to leave because he's not going to be happy that he didn't play Champions League final. Yes, I'm going to take it. I'm going to take that deal because I want to win the treble. I want to win trophies. And if that means one or two players get upset, fine. Sell them, get the money in, and then replace the player with a good player. Yeah,
there are, and that's fine for the most part, but there are, when we go to the upper level, there are some players who will sign under the assumption, or maybe it's like contractually written, that they will be playing not only the vast majority of games, but also the vast majority of important games as well. And again, I think it's safe to presume, not assume, I think it's safe to presume that if we were bringing in a Rodrigo, then he would want to be one of those players, wouldn't he? Where he's given assurances that I'm going to play the vast majority of games, and I would guess in my preferred position. Again,
but when you're signing a player, though, Nobbins, you're signing a player to improve on the players that you've already got, right? You don't typically sign players that you think are worse than what you've got, unless you're literally signing squad rotation options. So when you're signing a player like Rodrigo, you are signing him because he's going to be coming to your first team, which for me means that a player who's currently playing, i.e. Doku or Savio, will drop to the bench. Why? Because they're not as good as the player that you bought in. Otherwise, why have you bought the player? So if that player then wants to leave at the end of next season, then in my opinion, that's fine, because they're not playing because you've got a better player.
Yes, and again, that's fine if he's fine to not play his natural position.
Yeah,
that's fine. That's the main caveat here. I don't think we disagree, but I'm saying it depends on what are his demands, re the position that he would come into play. That is the chief concern and question for me.
No, facts. When I'm giving the examples, I wasn't specifically talking about Rodrigo there. I'm just talking generally.
Oh, no, sure. Yeah. Sorry. I was
on Rodrigo, you're not signing Rodrigo to have him as a rotational player, just to clarify. You're buying him to replace Doku or Savio as a starter. Then one of them would come a rotational option, you know?
Yes.
All right, then let's bring this to a close. Shout out to Ryan, who says, if you want a winger, sign Mbuemo. I like Mbuemo. I just don't know whether he's got that gear. You know, I'm talking about the gears. He's a good player. He's doing really, really well at Brentford. But if you come to Manchester City, does he have the level to go up and become a world-class player? That's the question. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe there's a little bit of snobbery in there because he plays for Brentford. That always creeps into fans' views and sometimes creeps into mine, 100%. I'm not afraid to admit it. But he's a great player. But will he come to City and get better? Because that's what you're looking for. I don't know. Yeah. I like the player. He's a good player, and he probably does need to move to a bigger club. But
well, we're talking about, if we are talking about bringing in a winger, we're talking about someone who's at the upper echelon, aren't we? We're talking about the true elite players, the needle movers, the ceiling raisers, whatever you want to call them. So we are talking about, you know, these players who are going to cost like 80 million plus, aren't we? So again, I don't think it's disrespectful to say Mbuemo's not quite that sort of is not that sort of ilk of player.
Yeah.
City.
Yeah. No, in fact, we are shopping in the expensive aisle this summer, chat. That's just the truth. Like we're not getting the cheap shit, man. Like we need quality players because we're a million miles away from where we need to be. Again, you guys
taking out a second mortgage to spend this money.
Yeah, if you guys don't believe me, go to Nobbins' stream when he had the 3 boxes and you put the players in the boxes and have a look how many players were in that far left box.
We need a good number of stars this summer.
It was not a lot of players. That's the truth of it. And then do it again with the treble winning side and see how many players were in the left-hand side box. It's night and day. Shout out Ryan. And shout out Ahmad as well. Says, fuck Romano. Oh, Fabrizio. Bro, when someone puts F, it normally just means fuck, innit? Like, fuck this guy, F this guy.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy.
I thought you was
Romano, for real.
Yeah, I thought he was kicking off, bro.
Confirmed on Nobbins. LB starting beef with Romano. Oh, no. Here we go.
Here we go.
Cancel this, guys. Man.
Here we go. Shout out, madman. He says, Fabrizio Romano said now that Milan wants huge money for Reijnders, they're thinking about if they want to sell him because he's very important to the team. Yeah, no, this is just all normal talk, bro.
Yeah, spiel.
Yeah, if you've got something that you don't want to sell, but someone wants to buy it, you're not going to be saying, oh, yeah, we'll sell it on the cheap. Do you know what I mean? You're going to come out and say, we're mad important to us. We need to get bare money for it. So this is normal. This is normal negotiation tactics. Nothing out of the ordinary, bro, to be honest with you. So, yeah, there we go, man. There we go. All right, then, guys. Big up to Nobbins for jumping on. Make sure you guys are subscribed to his channel, Nobbins. # free the Echeverry video. Make sure you smash a like on this one and subscribe as well. When is we got a Reijnders video coming out, you're saying?
It's a new series on my channel. It's called Ask Nobbins. I just like read people's people leave comments, and it's a Q&A style thing. We did one last week. It was well received. Someone's asked a question on Reijnders. It was interesting because they actually asked it 6 days ago. So we are talking about that in the upload, which will be released within like the next 30 minutes or so. So stay tuned for that. It's around 10-15 minutes. And if you want your comment to be featured in the next installment, leave a comment on the video and I might answer and feature it. #AskNobbins. Don't forget the hashtag, guys.
There you go. And don't forget to free Echeverry video. Yeah, smash these likes up, people. If you're not done so already, make sure you go check out that Tijani Reijnders video on Nobbins' channel a little bit later on. But yeah, big up to you guys. Smash the likes, subscribe. I'm back on with Hugh actually at 9:30. Usually we do this video in the morning and then I'm on with Hugh in the evening. But because I forgot to message Nobbins, this is now in the afternoon, and then I'm on with Nobbins in a bit. So yeah, come back in just over an hour and a half, and I'll be on with Hugh, and we'll chat with Hugh to see what he's saying. But yeah, big up to you guys. Smash a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in a bit. See you later.